Hi guys, this is a video of my top 15 Commodore 64 games of all time. Now when I say top, I mean the games I've spent the most time on in my life and the ones I've enjoyed the most. It's not necessarily a list of the games that I believe are the best 15 for the system. I must add, it's only the third video I've done, so please bear with me. I'm still a bit rusty with this YouTube business. But I'd appreciate your thoughts on the games I've selected. Now, stay tuned and enjoy my selections. So here we go, number 15. Probably won't be a popular choice amongst viewers, but I'm going for Bart versus the Space Mutants by Ocean and Acclaim from 1991. It was a 5-level platform game. Biggest criticisms were it was very fiddly, quite hard to control on the C64 compared to the NES, but still a game I greatly enjoyed. And I was a massive fan of The Simpsons, from Series 1 when you could only watch one episode a week. Even back then, as a 1990, I would have been only 7, but I love The Simpsons and still do. Sadly, I've lost the free badge over the years, but it's still complete in the box, tape and instructions. Also got the same game on the Mega Drive and Game Gear. And also, you don't see this very often, it's the handheld. It's not a bad game. I actually don't think I've ever finished this game on the C64. There's various different challenges on each level. The first level you have to find all the purple objects and spray them with Bart's spray paint. Second level it's hats and similar strange things that you do to complete each level. But yeah, as I say, I don't think I've ever reached the final 5th level. Maybe now's a good time to start. Okay, so next up at 14, we've got a shooter game, and it's the Dam Busters. Now I'm Lincoln born and bred. Dam Busters were from RF Scampton, which is only a few miles north of Lincoln. So it's something the Dam Busters is something we're very proud of in our county. So it's a game I had to get very early on. In fact, it was released in 1984 by US Gold. I was only 1. Obviously I didn't get it when I was 1, but I was probably 7 or 8 when I first played it. It's a nice shooter. This particular version, my version, is still complete. There's a tape, all kinds of inserts, nice manual, map. A few competitions, one that expired in 1985. Nice letter to Downing Street from Winston Churchill. All part of the fun. Yeah, it's a great game, so have a look. And next up at 13, we have Moon Shuttle by Americana Software. It's a nice arcade-style shooter, similar to Space Invaders, I guess, but all different levels, different enemies you have to blast. Yeah, it's originally released in 1983. I was reading some reviews recently of the game. Oh dear, Zap64 awarded it 13%, and Commodore 4, so they gave it 4%. Well, oh dear, at least I like the game. Perhaps no one else did. Okay, moving on to number 12. It's a bit of a left field choice here, but it's a game I've loved for a long time. It's The Quest for the Golden Egg Cup by Mastertronic. It was the first text adventure I ever played, and possibly the first adventure game of any sort I ever played. It's one of them games, you know, all about inventory and picking up objects, using them in different rooms, with the overall goal of trying to find an egg cup belonging to God himself, of this kind of slightly parallel world. Quite funny as a young boy, if you swore on the game, you'd get sent to a dungeon. You could dig your way out one time, but if you swore a second time in your game, you'd be in the dungeon and there'd be no way out at all. It'd be game over. It's always pretty funny. A game, yeah, probably one of the first games I ever finished, actually. It's reasonably tricky, but a great game all the same. I recommend you check it out. Now on to number 11. It's the first of 2 Dizzy games in my countdown, and I'm having Crystal Kingdom Dizzy. Obviously it's by the Oliver twins and co-masters. This one's from 1992, and it was the first full price release of a Dizzy game. This one was $9.99 at the time back then. The rest are all, I think, $2.99. I guess my copy is quite unique. If you can see, it's signed by the Oliver twins themselves. I met them at Play Expo in Blackpool about 2 years ago now. This particular Dizzy game, I remember being blown away by the graphics, because the background of the levels were all blue, whereas on all the previous Dizzy games on the system, it was, you know, kind of a plain black nighttime setting, but this one looked like daylight. And it was also the first Dizzy adventure game to be set over the course of a number of levels rather than one big level where you explore. This game had four different levels. One of them featured Richard O'Brien from the Crystal Maze, which was a nice touch at the time. Anyway, take a look, see what you think. Crystal Kingdom Dizzy. Okay, then here we go into the top 10, and I have chosen Barbarian, the Ultimate Warrior from 1987 by Palace Software. As you can see, my version is in a nice, rather large for the time, jewel case box. Funnily enough, I didn't know till many years later the the character on the box art, I mean, it's pretty obvious now when you think about it, is actually Wolf off Gladiators, a show from the UK. He was played by Michael Van Wyck, I think you pronounce his name. There he is. The game is actually known as Death Sword in the US because they had a different game over there called Barbarian, so they didn't want it to clash. So anyone watching in the US, you might want to check out this game, but it'll be known as Death Sword in your region. Bear that in mind. Well, onto the game. It's a 1 or 2 player fighter. You know, long before we had the likes of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, you know, this is one of the best you could get. 1 or 2 player, as I said. The object of the game is to beat 8 different warriors in order to face off with the evil wizard Drax. Beating him, you'll save Princess Mariana, who he's captured. Your typical fighting game, really. Good sound effects, good music. Can't really fault it. Ultimate Warrior, check it out. Okay, so number 9. I couldn't let this countdown pass without including a football game because I actually work in the football industry now as a reporter. I do think playing football games from a very early age helped shape me in the career that I chose. And for that reason, we're going to go with Football Manager 2 by Addictive Games, programmed by Kevin Toms. But I should also note that this particular version includes an expansion kit. Now, what that means is it enabled the player to edit a number of things, players' names. So I was always keen to put my friends' names on there, made it more interesting, a bit more fun, or players of the team I supported, which is Lincoln City. You can also edit the team names themselves. So sometimes I have my village team in there for a laugh or whatever. You can also change loads of other things as part of the expansion kit, such as the name of the ground you play at, or the kit sponsors, or the sponsors of the sponsors that offer money to the club, etc. Yeah, all really fun. See this box, nice. I love the big boxes for the Commodore 64. I mean, there aren't a great deal of them. This is one of them. I think it was £9.99 at the time. Hefty instructions, not only for the game, but also a separate set required just for the editing side. And this game paved the way for the football management games we have today. Funnily enough, the main one today is also called Football Manager. However, I must add it's nothing to do with Football Manager 1 and 2 that were programmed by Kevin Toms back in the 80s. It's just, the modern football managers evolved from Championship Manager created by Domark and later Idols. So there we go. Great game, as I said. The expansion kit really made it fun. Massive improvement on Football Manager 1, although Football Manager 1 is probably more famous, more legendary amongst sporting computer games. But as always, have a look at the graphics. Okay, number 8, we've got Gauntlet 2, The Phenomenon Continues. Obviously the sequel to the first Gauntlet by US Gold and Atari. This is from 1987. As you can see, this copy was purchased from Boots, which is, in the UK, it's more of a chemist. But believe it or not, in the 80s and early 90s, they did sell computer games. And this is where I got this one from. Anyway, $9.99 it was purchased for. Lovely copy. Some great inserts still, although the case is broke. Lovely instructions sheet, great condition. A couple of other bits in the packaging. Your golden opportunity to join the US Gold Club. Period for a year, $9.95 in 1987, as I said. Also, if you can see that, an exclusive offer included in this pack, where you can buy the original Gauntlet together with Deeper Dungeons for half price, just $4.99. I'm sure that was a bargain at the time. Then moving on to the gameplay, immediately after the game loads up, you got a choice of 4 characters. You got Thor the warrior, sorry I'm reading these, Questor the elf, Merlin the wizard obviously, and Thyra the Valkyrie. It's a bit of a Zelda type game, top down, as you go around, kind of a dungeon crawler, I think the genre seems to be called. Collect things like keys, power, speed, ammunition, food for energy, and strange enough you can also collect cider, which helps you in some ways too, funnily enough. But yeah, as I always say, let's have a look at the video for some action. Okay, so at number 7 we have Samurai Warrior, The Battles of Usagi Yojimbo. Here it is, again in a nice double cassette case, and a nice instruction book too, still in good condition here. Another game purchased from Boots, this time $8.99. It's a sideways scroller, kind of an adventure game stroke beat 'em up. You have to learn skills along the way that a samurai would, not just fighting, but you're also rewarded for being polite to certain characters within the game. There's plenty of different characters you meet along the way. Nice storyline setting, nice music, nice sound effects too. Set in 17th century Japan during a civil war. Obviously the object is to get to the end, overcome the dark forces and be the hero. Rabbit. Great game though. I should add, released by Firebird Software in 1988. Right then, on to number 6, and I've gone for a title from 1986, and that is Firelord. Now, unfortunately, I can't find my original cassette of this, but luckily I've got it to hand on this multi-pack, 5-game pack. Actually, a couple of other games on here that narrowly missed out on my top 15, like Uridium and what was the other one? Oh yeah, The Way of the Exploding Fist. Trapdoor was also a fun game too. That's featured on this complication, 5-star, volume 3. Anyway, yes, Firelord is a kind of an action-adventure game, and you explore in a world. And actually, as far as C64 games go, it's quite a big world to explore. Meeting different characters on the way, going into different buildings and different mini games, different challenges which can unfortunately kill you or earn you points, money, etc. So the game itself, you control a character called Sir Galahad, and you're exploring the kingdom that I mentioned, that's called the Toro Kingdom, and you're in search of 4 charms. Now the charms are supposedly give you eternal youth, which is the reason he's looking for them. Beat the game, you must obviously find the 4 charms, but then you do get an option of whether to gamble them or not for a Firestone. Now the only way to get the best ending to the game is you need to finish with the 4 charms, but you need to steal the Firestone. That way you'll be ranked at the end with the title of Fire Lord, and that's the only way, you know, to get that particular ending, the ultimate goal. Anyway, have a look. Okay, then here we go into the all-important top 5. I told you earlier on there'd be another Dizzy game after I mentioned Crystal Kingdom Dizzy, and yes, there is in fact another, and that second Dizzy game is Treasure Island Dizzy. And my version belongs on this 5-game compilation pack that came out around 1990, I think it was. Now, Treasure Island Dizzy was the second game in the series from Codemasters and of course the Oliver twins. It was a bit different to the original Dizzy game in that there was less enemies, which you'd think, yeah, great, that makes it life easier. However, you're only given 1 life, and quite notoriously and famously, that made it a very difficult game to beat, considering not only the plot of the game, you know, the usual collecting items, using them elsewhere, you also had to collect all 30 coins on the island, which was no mean feat. But having said that, you know, it's still great fun. It was the first Dizzy game I ever played. I played this before the original. I actually played it first on a friend of mine, well, it's my friend's brother's ZX Spectrum, and that's where Treasure Island Dizzy originated. It was on that machine. It was later ported to the Commodore and the Amstrad. As you'd expect, it's a really great game, provided me with so much fun from a very early age. Still play it every now and again today, you know. Almost, well, yeah, more than 30 years later, which is scary. Okay, so now we're on to number 4. I'm going for the second of the Last Ninja series of games, Last Ninja 2. You know, the first and third games, you know, came into consideration of my top 15. They were that good, but I have to say the second in the series is, I think it does eclipse the first, and the first and second are better than the third. But anyway, I've got this nice big box version of it. I've had it all my life. There's another Boots purchase, you might be able to see there. £12.99, paying for the big box that it comes in. Still in good nick today. So moving on to the game itself, I forgot to add it's from 1988 again, this one. It seemed to be a good year for games by System 3. This version, this sequel is set in New York City rather than Lin Fen, where the original was set. We've moved on, somehow been transported into the future. Anyway, have a look. So here we are at number 3, and I've gone for 1942 by Capcom and Elite, released in 1986. Here's my version. It's got again a nice big case, instructions, the offer to join Popular Computing Weekly's annual subscription for £25. Obviously something I didn't take up at the time. Anyway, the game is a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up set in World War II. You control your particular aircraft over the course of 24 levels. You get extra points for shooting down the enemy aircraft, obviously, and rescuing prisoners of war by flying over them. It's quite a simple game, I guess. I've seen a lot of reviews saying it's a poor arcade conversion, but I actually think it's a great port of the arcade original. Anyway, as always, let's take a look. Right then, at number 2 we have Mayhem in Monsterland by Apex and the Rollins brothers, who are also responsible for Creatures 1 and 2, two other great games for the Commodore. I believe the game was, when it was released in 1993, which was quite late in the Commodore's lifespan obviously, I think it was mail order only. I remember filling out a form with my dad in Commodore Format magazine and posting it off and receiving it a week or so later, I think it was, back in 93 itself. I think as well Commodore Format awarded it 100%, the only game ever to receive that in the magazine, or possibly any magazine as far as I'm aware. Never known any other game score so highly. The game itself, great theme tune music, although very similar to Warner Brothers' Tiny Toon Adventures. I'm surprised no lawsuit was involved, although I guess Warner Brothers had a lot better things to worry about at the time. The gameplay, kind of similar. It's a platform game, obviously. You control the Mayhem, the little Triceratops. Similar to Sonic the Hedgehog, I'd say, and a few Mario elements too, which is obviously a great combination. Great music, as I've said. There's 2 phases to each level. Once you kill all the enemies, the level switches to daylight, a much brighter setting, and then so on and so forth throughout each level. Great graphics for the time. It proved, there was still life in the old Commodore yet. It was late as 1993. Have a look for yourself, you'll see what I mean. It's brilliant. There are so many great games for the C64 that I considered in my top 15 that didn't quite make the cut. Those include, Paradroid, Iridium, Elite, Rainbow Islands and Super Robin Hood. Sadly, none of them quite made it, but it's now time to reveal my number 1. And that game was actually the first game I ever played on any system, and that is Bobble by Firebird Software, which was obviously a port of the Taito arcade original from 1987. Now, it's a 1 or 2 player game. You control Bub and Bob, who enter the Cave of Monsters to find 2 princesses who have been caught by the evil Baron von Blubber, who appears as an enemy during the game, amongst many others. Throughout the game you collect fruits and gems to earn points, and other things such as an umbrella which allows you to skip levels, and various other things along the way to help you in your quest. You can also collect bubbles containing letters of the word extend. If you spell out the full word extend, that gives you an extra life, and boy, you're going to need that extra life because it's a very difficult game. 100 levels, and even when you do finish the game after the 100 levels, you then go on to you're then offered to play a harder version of the game, and back to the start. It's amazing how such a simple formula can create such a great game. The 2 protagonists, all they do is blow bubbles and occasionally bounce on the bubbles. They capture enemies in the bubbles and burst them to kill them in order to progress to the next level. But there's just something about it that makes that such great fun. And the fact it is a hard game, you'll be at it for hours and hours. Sadly, when I was recording my footage of the game for this video, I had problems with my joystick, so what you're about to see isn't a true reflection of the game. I couldn't face a certain direction, so I wasn't able to show you my character moving left to right, but you get a brief feel for it, and yeah, that's it. Well done for getting this far. Thank you for watching. I really hope you liked my top 15 C64 games. I'd appreciate it if you could, like and subscribe and all that rubbish. That'd be great. Thank you.